I'm not a YouTuber. I was recently watching a video where essentially they explained that if you want to get someone into sports of any kind, the best way to do it is explain it not like some sort of athletic competition, but like a soap opera, with drama, with fights, with everything like that. At the moment, Arsenal, my team, are having an insane moment. But all my friends are not Arsenal fans, or even football fans, and I cannot share that with them. So, in a desperate effort to get my insane excitement and be able to share that with people who have no idea anything in football, I thought, how do people best explain soap operas to people who have no idea what they're talking about? It's through corkboards. I've seen Mike's Mike. I've seen Jenny Nicholson. They're amazing, and they explain things that I have no idea what's going on, and I'm still able to understand it. So I'm definitely just stealing that way of doing it, and I'm going to explain why Arsenal are in a title race and why it's a big deal. A few things to note. I'm not a YouTuber. This is a PC with a fan on top of it, with my mobile on top of it. This is going to be weird. Second of all, I am an Arsenal fan, so I'm going to be super biased towards Arsenal. I've been an Arsenal fan since I was a kid. Anyone who comes into this saying we're looking for a biased account of what's going on with football, it's not the place. I'm a massive Arsenal fan. I'm very excited. I'm here to share that with people. Third of all, this video is mainly for people who have no idea what's going on in football, full stop, in an aim to convert them. Cards on the table, I would like more people to become Arsenal fans. But because of that, if I get stuff slightly off, I apologise. It's really general. I'm essentially having fun with the video. Right, without further ado, let's talk about why Arsenal are in a title challenge and why that's such a big deal. What do we need to know about Arsenal? Well, first of all, Arsenal are in the Premier League. I'm going to put this here. I'm definitely going to run out of space. The Premier League is a league in the UK in which 20 teams play each other once at home and once away for a 38-game season. And once they've done it, they see who won the most games and who lost the least games, tally up all the points, and then there's a winner. Arsenal play in that league, and they play in it with, as I said, 19 other teams, but there's some key ones you should know. Arsenal's big rival is Tottenham. They play literally about a few miles away from them, if that, and they're the worst. We hate them. Fun note about Tottenham is that Tottenham have not won a trophy since like 2008, and even then it was some like really minor trophy. It's not important for this video, it's just funny. Also in London are Chelsea. They're kind of rivals, not as much as Tottenham, but we still don't like them. Chelsea have had a lot more success than Tottenham. They've won the league in 2017, I want to say. And they play in the Premier League, so we don't like them either. So I'm not going to go through the entire history of Arsenal, but I am going to go through some really key things that you need to know before you even know about this club. In 1996, Arsenal didn't have a manager, and they hired someone from Japan who had previously never managed in the Premier League, and that man's name was Arsene Wenger. People were like, who the hell is this guy? And he gave people the best time of their lives ever known. Arsene Wenger led Arsenal to win three Premier Leagues, and one of them we didn't lose a single game all season. We drew a lot of it, but we didn't lose a single game. The problem with Arsene Wenger is that after he won that league, he didn't win it again, and he kept finishing third. Not like fifth or bad or getting relegated or anything like that, but he kept finishing third. And when you serve the same dinner over and over again, even if it's not a bad dinner, you're going to want a different dinner. So a lot of Arsenal fans were like, get this guy out. We don't want him, even though he's given us the best time of our lives. There was a hashtag trending, Wenger out, and this poor old man was thrown to the streets. It's sad, but it kind of had to happen. So I hear you say, Manny, Arsenal won the league in what, 2003, 2004? Who's been winning the league since? I'm going to read to you very quickly who has won the league since we last won the league. In order: Chelsea, Manchester United, Manchester United, Manchester United, Chelsea, Manchester United, Manchester City, Manchester United, Manchester City, Chelsea, Leicester, Chelsea, Manchester City, Manchester City, Liverpool, Manchester City, Manchester City. You know any themes? The word Manchester is throughout all of that. Manchester United is the reason that a lot of people from my generation fell into a deep depression, because they won everything all the time. But around about 2008, things began to change. This is Manchester City. Manchester City were a club that played in the Premier League and frankly weren't very good. They finished around mid-table, sometimes lower than that, and once they finished so low that they dropped out the bottom of the league into a league below and then had to fight their way back up again. But during that time, a lot of people realised if you bought a football club, you could capture the imagination of a big group of people, and that was very good for you for whatever you wanted to do. So in 2008, Manchester City was bought by this man. This is Sheikh Mansour. He is one of the richest men in the world. And the reason, though, he's one of the richest men in the world is because he is the state of the UAE. He just is. He's the whole thing. There's some political reasons why this is the case. I'm not going to get into it, but just know he has an insane amount of money, and with that insane amount of money, he bought Manchester City. Manchester City became the richest team in the league. Man City is a lot like the rich camp in a lot of summer hijinks movies. They buy the best equipment, they buy the best stuff, they buy the best players, and then because of that, they win the race every year. Not really every year, occasionally someone else might jump in and the plucky other camp might win, but they win all the time. They've won the league 5 times in the past 10 years. So you need to know that half of all the leagues that have ever been won in the last 10 years in the UK, Man City. So how did they win all these leagues? Well, they won them over a number of different managers, but currently their manager is Pep Guardiola. Pep Guardiola is one of, if not the best manager in the world. Pep Guardiola used to be a player, and he used to play for Barcelona. Now, Barcelona aren't in the Premier League because they play in Spain, but I am just going to put them here. Pep used to play for Barcelona. He was very good, and then he left Barcelona and became a manager. He managed Bayern Munich, Barcelona, and now he's at Man City, and he's winning everything all the time. So he only joined in 2016, and since then he's already won 4 league titles, and in one of them he got 100 points. So to put that into perspective, there's only 38 games in a season, and you get 3 points per win. So the maximum amount of points that you could get is 30 times 2 is 9. Is 114? I want to say. Even though he did lose games, he got more points than that Arsenal team that never lost because we drew a bunch of games and you only get 1 point for a draw. Did this man do it alone? No, he did it with the help of his assistant manager, Mikel Arteta. These were best friends. That's what you got to know. They were really good friends, even though there's a massive age difference between them. Best buds. Best buds. So who's Mikel Arteta? Mikel Arteta was a footballer. He played for a number of clubs, including Barcelona. Pep Guardiola met Mikel Arteta while he was at the youth academy of Barcelona. So there's a whole thing going on. He also played for Arsenal. We'll just stick that over there and hope that you get the general idea. He played in the Premier League for Arsenal, and he was pretty good. He won a few kind of smaller trophies, but Pep Guardiola, from even when he was a kid, knew he would be a pretty good manager. So he's like, I will take you under my wing and you will be my assistant manager. And he was assistant manager from 2016. Wenger needs to go. And in 2018, he said, I will go. So who becomes the manager after Arsene Wenger? You might have an idea in your head. And that is Unai Emery. This is Unai Emery. I'm not going to talk too much about Unai Emery because he's responsible for some of my least favourite moments in my life ever. He was the manager of Paris Saint-Germain, another club who has infinite money, and then he became Arsenal manager, and he was pretty bad. I will stick you up here. Actually, you know what? I'm going to move him, it feels weird putting them on the same level. I'm going to just move him slightly down. We didn't get relegated. I think we finished 5th, but we were drawing to teams like Norwich at the time, and it was really bad. Also worth noting, when Emery was manager, we got to a final of a European competition, one of the big trophies that we could win, and we played Chelsea, and we lost 4-1, which is horrendous. So, Emery's been sacked. Goodbye. It's 2019, and Arsenal need a new manager. But Pep Guardiola can't stay at Man City forever. Pep Guardiola wants Mikel Arteta to be like his successor. Be the guy who, after he is finished managing, becomes the Man City manager and carries on that streak, because he's seen him be the assistant at Man City and do basically all the things that he's been doing to a lesser degree. But Arsenal need a manager. We need someone to manage the club. And the club is in disarray. So Arteta essentially has 2 choices. He can either wait at Man City, become the Man City manager, be the rich camp, win everything all the time, or he can go back to the club that he used to play for and lead them out of a bad spot into a time of maybe prosperity, but also maybe the worst time of his life because it's really hard to be the Arsenal manager. Arteta wanted to be his own man. He chose to manage Arsenal. This beautiful, beautiful man. Arteta leaves City, joins Arsenal as a manager, and Pep Guardiola stays on as Manchester City manager until he finds a new successor, and he's still there today. So, what is the state of the Arsenal team when Arteta takes over? Let's have a look and meet the team. First player, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. Aubameyang is sensational. He was brought in by Wenger as like a going away present, and he scores goals for fun. He scores all the time. Even during the terrible Emery era, this man gave me actual hope. Wait, I should actually change... Hang on. This man gave me hope during a terrible time. Got his name on the back of this. More on that later. Put you here. Aubameyang as a personality is really infectious. He's smiling all the time. But he's also really weird. I mean that with all due respect, but he's really weird. During the African Ballon d'Or ceremony, he got nominated for one of the best players in Africa at the time. He's from Gabon. And everyone shows up to that like it's the Oscars, right? You know, like suits and blazers and it's like black tie and all that kind of thing. He showed up in full Lamborghini merchandise. Look at Mahrez next to it. Look at this. His trademark celebration is a front flip, and every single time he used to do it, I always thought he was going to break his neck. And he's like our best player, so he does that, we're screwed. But he never did, so good job. I'm not going to put this on the board, I'm just looking at it. Next up, we have Mesut Ozil. Put you here. This is going to get a mess really quickly. I don't know if you know. Mesut Ozil is like a creative player. He's the guy who like links the kind of middle of the pitch to the business end of the pitch where you score the goals. And you have to be kind of clever in that. And Mesut Ozil does that. He's a really smart guy. At one point, he was seen as the best in the world, bar none, at what he does. But over time, it's not really worked out for him. He's gotten a bit lazy. Some people say he doesn't really want to be there. But that's a bit harsh because at times he really cared about the club, but he's not quite where he was a few years ago. So Ozil and Aubameyang are paid the most in the club. They are the money bags getting paid the big money to score us goals and win. But unfortunately, while Aubameyang is doing really, really well, Ozil, not so much. He's having some problems. Oh shit, I threw Emery away. Hang on. Emery's back, just for this tale. Emery and Ozil had a fight when Emery was manager, in which basically Emery thought that Ozil wasn't really putting the work in, and he didn't want him as part of the team, even though everyone thought he was really good. And Ozil fucking hated Emery for like every single reason. So it got to the point where Emery stopped picking Ozil to even show up to games, never mind play. And Ozil was like tweeting at home during the games, being like, why was I not picked for this game? During that time, he got carjacked in London, and another Arsenal player, Said Kolasinac, who I don't have a picture of, but fair dues, jumped out of a car and fought an armed carjacker to protect this man. Not important to the story, but like, thanks, Said Kolasinac. He did put some comments on Twitter about the Uyghur genocide in China, and the club, for whatever reason, then stopped playing him. Read into that what you will. But now Arteta's here, and they could maybe start working together. So that's cool. Next up is Bukayo Saka. You need to like memorize this face because he's going to be coming up a lot. The thing you need to know about Bukayo Saka is that he's perfect and could do no wrong, and also my son. He's not actually my son. We love Bukayo Saka. Get out of here. When Arteta joined Arsenal, it's so difficult because this is mirrored. When Arteta joined Arsenal, Saka was 18 years old and had already been playing football. I think he got his debut when he was 17, which makes me feel terrible about myself and my life choices. He'd been playing for Arsenal since he was 7 in their like youth division, and he runs Arsenal like through and through. Like he loves the club. But he was brought in too early. We had no one playing at the back because everyone had gotten injured. We had no one playing left back, and he, I guess, could. So they were like, cool, you'll play. And then he was amazing, and everyone went, oh, we should keep playing you because you're amazing. He was very young, though. Like, he was good for us, and we could see that he was good, but he wasn't, like, insanely great. He was just 17 and could play as well as some of the people who'd been like 28 and playing, and that's quite impressive. And also, he's the best, and you can say no wrong about this kid. Granit Xhaka, a man who I have the biggest love-hate relationship with, maybe in the world. Xhaka can go here next to Ozil, because they kind of play in the midfield. What you need to know about Granit Xhaka is that he is a bit of a hothead. He consistently loses his temper. He's all right, but he likes a bit of a scrap. And that has meant that he's got a bit of a reputation for getting red cards, for getting sent off, for being a bit aggressive. And he's our captain. Quite controversially, Emery, who is on the floor somewhere, the paper Emery, made him captain because they put it to a vote, I think. He was captain, despite the fact he liked to get sent off all the time. Leading up to that, while he was captain, the Xhaka incident happened. Here is live footage, I guess not live, but here is footage of the Xhaka incident. Like a terrible badge of honour tag next to Granit Xhaka. So what is the Xhaka incident? So in a game against Crystal Palace, Xhaka got substituted off, not sent off, they brought him off to bring another player on, and we were losing that game, and all the fans booed him because he was captain and we were shit. That's the only reason, really. A lot of people blame Xhaka because we were so shit at the time. That's kind of fair, kind of unfair. But what really wasn't cool was that he started cupping his ears, being like, yeah. He told fans to fuck off. He took his shirt off, threw the Arsenal shirt on the ground, and ran down the tunnel. People thought he was never going to play for Arsenal again after this, because you just don't do that. Even if you hate the manager, even if you hate the fans, you normally keep up appearances because they are the people paying you millions and millions of pounds. You don't take off your shirt when you're the captain of the club and throw it on the ground. So we thought he'd never play again, but we don't really have a choice. Martinelli. Gabriel Martinelli. Gabriel Martinelli is another really young kid. He was brought from, I think, the 4th division of Brazilian football. Brazilian football is really good, but not the same level as the super high level. So the 4th division's pretty low, and whoever found this kid, you deserve the world because he's really good, genuinely really good. You will go next to Saka, because you're both the best. You're not both the best, but you're both really good. He didn't really get a lot of playtime because he was still really young, still kind of developing. He had an odd game here and there, and he did all right. Finally, we have William Saliba. William Saliba was sent on a pilgrimage to France. I'm not shitting you. The club bought him from abroad, from France, and then they sent him back to France on loan. So Saliba's in France. He's not played a single Arsenal game. So let's put Saliba in France. We'll put him here. That's France. He's a big prospect, but we don't know because he's in France. I'm not going to go through every single player, but these are our main guys. We've got Aubameyang, our best player. Ozil was our best player, but is a bit lazy. Xhaka's our captain. He's a bit of a hothead. And we've got Saka and Martinelli, who are these two younger kind of lads. And we got Saliba in France. Arteta gets brought in midway through the season after Emery gets the sack. In his first season, he finished 8th. It is really bad, but he had half of that season that wasn't entirely his, and all of these players are not his players. He doesn't know them, he has to meet them, he has to sort of get up to speed with them. He did do one thing right. He won something. He won the FA Cup. The FA Cup is not as big as the Premier League. How do I describe the FA Cup? The FA Cup is like when you go to a restaurant, you ask for a Coke, and they go, is Pepsi okay? But instead of saying, is Pepsi okay, they go, is Aldi's own brand cola okay? And you're like, I haven't had a drink of any variety in years, so that's actually all right. So well done, Arteta. You've won Aldi's own brand cola. We won that FA Cup mostly due to the heroics of Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang and this man who will come up later. His name is Emi Martinez. In order to win that cup, he did have to beat Chelsea and Man City. We will put Emi Martinez here. There's a really long, interesting, cool story about how he essentially made Messi win the World Cup, but this is a long enough video already. He's beaten some good teams to get here, and he's shown that he's a good manager. But you know what didn't show he was a good manager was what was going on in the Premier League. After he won the FA Cup, he then had to play in the Premier League. We were really bad. I have here a list of the results of the Premier League. I'm not going to read them out, but just know that if it's red, it's a game we've lost. If it's green, it's a game we've won. And if it's grey, it's a game we drew. A lot of red on there, if you don't see. We did beat Man United, which is hilarious because, haha, Man United, who won the league all those years. Different story. But we're losing to the likes of Wolves, Burnley, and Tottenham, who you might know as the people we hate the most in the world. So this is really bad, and people want Mikel Arteta sacked because of that. The overall kind of thing to note is that Arteta had shown that he was good in like little bursts, but not consistently over the course of a season. And his job was on the line. People fucking hated him at the time. They wanted him out like they wanted Wenger out. It was Arsenal's worst league start in decades, like worse than Emery. But why is this the case? So first of all, COVID's happening, and COVID makes everything terrible and weird. But Man City are doing fine, and they're during COVID, so it's not really an excuse. Ozil was reintroduced into the first team before the pandemic, and then the pandemic hit, and it hit the club's finances really bad. So everyone goes, we're going to have a pay cut. Everyone agrees that pay cut, except for Ozil, because Ozil likes his money. That's unfair. Ozil wanted to know ahead of time that he was going to get the pay cut, and then when people called him like greedy, the money that would have gone into the pay cut, he donated it to homeless shelters around London. Because of that, mentally, you could see that he didn't really give a shit about Arsenal anymore. They messed him around. He'd now gone through 3 managers, and this was the second one in a row who had kind of not been playing him as much as he liked, and he stopped getting picked. Again, tweeting about Arsenal games while Arsenal games are going on, being like, oh, it's so weird that I didn't get picked, haha. And we were losing as well, so he was fucking laughing. Another weird side note is that Arsenal has a mascot. It's called Gunnosaurus. And during the pandemic, they were trying to cut costs, so they tried to sack him, the mascot. And Ozil just said, I will pay your salary, mascot, partially as like a genuinely nice gesture, and partially to say, fuck you, club, for not paying me. I'm going to make you look like an idiot on the world stage. Aubameyang isn't scoring. Well, he kind of is, but his defence is letting him down. He could score 1 goal, and they're going to score 2 against us, so it doesn't really matter. The defence is a fucking shambles. It's terrible. It's so bad. We had someone called David Luiz who used to play for Chelsea, and he won shit with Chelsea, but he was so bad for us. And during this time, Bukayo Saka tweets this. This is going to be important later. But he says, you deserve more, Arsenal fans. December 16th, 2020. We will add this to the board. It's Boxing Day 2020. COVID's happening. It's snowing. We're in lockdown. Things are really weird. You don't see your family over Christmas. And Arsenal are playing fucking terribly. Arteta's job is on the line because we have to play Chelsea. And it is basically thought that if he loses this game against Chelsea, he's gone. We're just going to find someone else. Arsenal versus Chelsea. If Arteta loses, he's out of here. But Ozil is not. He's not part of the team. He's not playing. After the whole fiasco, he's gone. We can't play him. And we need someone to link the midfield to the business end of the pitch so he can score. So let's take Ozil down. He just retired recently, and he gave us some really good memories. So, shout out you, Ozil. Maybe one of the most misunderstood people in all of this whole thing. So Arteta has a big hole where fucking Ozil used to sit. What does he do? He says, fuck it, essentially. This is Emil Smith-Rowe. Emil Smith-Rowe is not a new signing. You can't sign players in the middle of the season. You have to either sign them in the summer or in January. But he is playing for Arsenal. He's been at Arsenal since he was 10. He was in the youth team. He was loaned out to teams like Huddersfield. He's a London boy. I think he's from Croydon originally, the poor soul. And he's too young. But Arteta's job's on the line. And it's better play someone than nobody. So we're going to put Emil Smith-Rowe where Ozil used to sit and hope for the best. So Arsenal versus Chelsea, Boxing Day 2020. He's getting sacked if we lose. We won 3-1. No one expected this to happen. Nobody. I didn't. 3-1. We battered them. We battered you, Chelsea. We battered you. We're just going to put this back here just as a reminder that we beat Chelsea 3-1. Xhaka scored. He didn't get sent off either. And Saka scored. And Lacazette scored, but you don't need to know that. And Emil Smith-Rowe was the kid who put it all together. He did so well in this match. and saved his job. He was going to be gone, but he saved his job. So this bought Arteta time. He was 15th as this game was coming in, out of 20 teams. He was in the bottom quarter, but showing that he could beat a team like Chelsea really went a long way. And he owes it to these young players, these like really young Emil Smith-Rowe, this really young Bukayo Saka. But the older players, maybe they could learn a thing or two. So it's January. You're allowed to buy players in January. And they go and buy Martin Odegaard. Martin Odegaard was like a child sensation. Everyone thought he was going to be one of the best players in the world. I say everyone. A lot of people thought he was going to be one of the best players in the world, including Real Madrid. I don't have a picture of Real Madrid, but they're their rivals. So he gets signed at a really young age to Real Madrid and just doesn't get played. He's seen as like kind of like not quite there, but he gets loaned out to other teams and does really well, but just doesn't get the playtime at Real Madrid. So Real Madrid are just kind of loaning him all over the place, and they go, fuck it, let's loan him to Arsenal and see what happens. So he's here on loan. He's come from Spain and he is on loan. He plays in the same position as Emil Smith-Rowe, so it puts a little less pressure on the young kid's shoulders. I'm going to put him over this. That's good. I dropped the camera. Okay. So the season's finished. We finished 8th. And during that time, in between the next season starting and the current season ending, there's the international break where clubs stop playing and nations start playing. England play, and England need someone to play. So they pick Bukayo Saka. Arsenal players haven't played for England in like years because it's been really bad. Saka playing for England is like a big deal. They don't think he's going to play because essentially they just need someone to fill the spot. But we're all really proud of it. Here he is at the Euros, and he starts doing well. He starts getting brought on, like, for some minutes here and there, and it's going pretty well. England gets to their first international final since 1966, with Saka playing for them. Insane. This is obviously going to go well for him. It doesn't. Put this over Saka, because we did deserve more Arsenal fans, and we deserved him. Saka, the boy who everyone loves, the young lad of 18, he might have been 19. The young lad is playing for England in a final. And guess what? England are 1-0 up against Italy in the final. So Italy equalise and it's 1-1 and it goes to penalties. Harry Kane scores his penalty. Harry Maguire scores his penalty. Marcus Rashford, who has literally been feeding many of the children of the UK who can't afford school meals for the last few years, misses his penalty. It hits off the bar. Jadon Sancho, another Manchester United player, also misses his penalty. So it's down to Bukayo Saka, a literal teenager, to pin an entire nation's dreams. England don't win shit, right? And Saka, it's all on his shoulders. His penalty gets saved. This is him with the England manager. The England manager is actually quite famous because he also missed a penalty in like a key decision and was villainised for years. Also, fun fact about the England manager, my mum made his son's birthday cake at one point. So Saka misses the penalty, and you would think that football fans are super rational, right? They don't go off the handle. They don't go crazy over no reason. He had a great tournament. But people don't remember this. People remember this. They subject him, as well as Marcus Rashford and Jadon Sancho, to some of the most horrific racial abuse on the internet at the time. For a kid that young, that could just be him. He could just be like, I don't want to play football anymore. I have no idea how he stomached that, but he's stronger than I am because I would have fucking been like, not doing this ever again. For perspective, the World Cup was just this past year, and Harry Kane missed his penalty against France. It was a different situation, but he had a penalty, and if he'd scored it, it would have been very important. Nowhere near the level of abuse that Bukayo Saka scored. And the Euros is a lesser competition than the World Cup. Just racism, essentially. Putting that aside, a new season has started, and a new kit has been released. Right. This is out the wash and actually still slightly wet, so that's gross. It's 2021. We're going to call this season the Amazon season because there's a documentary on it on Amazon. I'm going to just go through the season really quickly because it isn't necessarily that important, and there's a whole Amazon fucking documentary on it. But there's a few things to know. Martin Odegaard here is brought in permanently. Now he's an Arsenal player. He no longer plays for Real Madrid, not on loan. Similarly, William Saliba is brought back from loan. He was in France, and now he's back. And then we sent him back to France. Why did we send him back to France? When he... Go on, William. There we go. Why did we send him back to France when he just had an amazing season in France and he was one of the best defenders? And we bought some new players. This is Ben White. He looks like he's on Love Island. That's the way to remember Ben White. Ben White is a defender. He plays for Brighton, and we buy him for 50 million quid. That's a lot of money. People say he's really overpriced. People start saying you're shit, you're 50 million pounds, and you're shit. But he hasn't even played, and he was good for Brighton with the rest of the squad. Here. This is Aaron Ramsdale. Aaron Ramsdale is a goalkeeper. Ramsdale is young, but he has played for a number of clubs. He's played for Bournemouth, he's played for Sheffield United, and the through line for all of those clubs is that they were all relegated. Relegated is when you finish in the bottom three and you fall out the bottom of the league, kind of like what happened to City before they got bought. This happened to him 3 times. Not the best sign. Arsenal already have a goalkeeper at this time. Not this guy, again, long story. A guy called Bernd Leno. Bernd Leno's pretty good. So why are we spending so much money on a backup goalkeeper? Put you here. Cute story about Aaron Ramsdale is that he brought his grandpa's ashes to his contract signing, which is just lovely. You know, it's just nice. It's the new season. It's 2021. We've got new signings. Let's go. First game of the season, Arsenal lose 2-0 to Brentford. We then lose 5-0 to Man City, who didn't win the league last time. Liverpool did. If Liverpool hadn't won the league, it would have been like 3 in a row for them. Then after that game, we lose 2-0 to Chelsea. So we're getting bullied by these two teams just constantly. Meanwhile, Spurs have won all their games and are now top. Our big rival is top. Our other rival beat us 2-0. And this team that beats everyone smashed us 5-0. Maybe your job is not as secure as you might think, Arteta. But to be fair, a lot of people during these opening 3 games had COVID. We had to play this man, Eddie Nketiah, who is another young Arsenal kid from London. You might see a theme. A lot of these young kids from London who are playing for Arsenal are doing really well. Keep that in mind. We have to play Eddie Nketiah, who's not that experienced, because Aubameyang has COVID. But after those 3 games, Arsenal actually start winning games. They start slowly winning a few here and there, but after a while, it looks like they're actually starting to compete with the big dogs. Do you remember when he was finishing 3rd consistently and we kicked him out? And now we finished 8th twice. But now we're fighting for 4th. That might not sound like anything, but 4th is actually really important. And a quick aside as to why. This is the Champions League. The Champions League is not just UK clubs, it is clubs from all over Europe. The Champions League is regarded as the creme de la creme of winning anything. Normally the best teams in the world are the ones that win it. Chelsea's won it twice. Barcelona has won it an insane amount of times, while Pep Guardiola was manager. And Tottenham have never won it. But also, interestingly, another team that hasn't won it is Arsenal, and City have never won it. City consistently win the Premier League. They've never won the Champions League. They've come close a bunch of times, but they always seem to bottle it right at the last minute. And Guardiola needs the Champions League. You qualify for playing in the Champions League if you finish in the top 4. So 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th all qualify for the Champions League. But we've finished 5th, and then 8th, and then 8th. So we are not even in the competition at all. The Champions League is a big deal. And we would like to finish 4th. Aubameyang is mad. So Aubameyang is our best player. We like Aubameyang. He signs a new contract with us, keeping him at Arsenal for the long term. When this happened, I was ecstatic. He could have easily just gone wherever he wanted. He chose to stay with us. And this is important because the likes of Chelsea and Man City consistently take our players when we're doing kind of shit, but they're really good. And we don't have them anymore. But during this season, the Amazon season, he's not doing so great. He's missing chances. He's not really running. He's kind of jogging. Meanwhile, Saka and Emile Smith-Rowe doing great. And they're a lot younger than he is. So it's kind of starting to show him up. Aubameyang shows up late to training. And in response, Arteta says, you can't play in the game that's coming up against Southampton. And this pisses him off because he's the best player and he just showed up late to training. It's the second time he's done this. He showed up late to training against Tottenham and we played that game and we actually won that game. These guys are now feuding. Our manager and our best player. So Arsenal play Southampton without Aubameyang and win 3-0. Maybe he's not that important after all. And this makes Aubameyang furious. He's pissed off. He's pissed off at the manager. He's pissed off at the people showing him up. He's pissed off at the club. I'm going to read you a quote from Aubameyang. But to manage big characters or big players, Arteta can't deal with it. He needs young players. They don't say anything. They listen. In February, Aubameyang just says, fuck it. I know I've signed a new contract. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm going to leave Arsenal. So they ripped up his contract and sent him away. So there goes our best player. Where do they send him, I hear you ask? They send Aubameyang to Barcelona. He's over here now in Spain. Aubameyang in Spain, he's in Barcelona. And he does pretty well for them. He scores a bunch of goals. Next chapter, let's go for the Champions League. So it's March 2022, and Arsenal are 4th, and Spurs are 3 points behind them in 5th. So it's between Arsenal and Spurs to see who's going to get 4th and qualify for the Champions League. Rivalry, it's London, intense. Our main striker is a guy called Lacazette, who I haven't brought up in this, but he gets injured, and we have to play Eddie Nketiah again. I'm going to give you a dramatic reading of how we do. Arsenal are 4th, and Spurs are 3 points behind. If you win, you get 3 points. If you draw, you get 1 point, and if you lose, 0 points. All we need to do is just win more games than Spurs, and we've got top 4. We've got the Champions League that we haven't had for so many years. We lose to Crystal Palace. We go down to 5th, but we're on the same points as Spurs. 3 points behind Spurs. Lose to Southampton. We go 3 points behind Spurs because Spurs also lose. Beat Manchester United 3-1 and Spurs draw. We go 1 point behind Spurs. We beat West Ham and Spurs also win their game. So we're still 1 point behind. We beat Leeds and Spurs draw to Liverpool. Arsenal are 1 point above Spurs. If we beat Spurs in the league, we get top 4. It's just confirmed. All we need to do is beat Spurs, our biggest rivals. I printed this one out really big to like demonstrate my point, but it's actually just super depressing. We lose 3-0 to Spurs. Because of that, we did not get the Champions League. We finished 5th. It's heartbreaking because we thought we were going to do it. We thought that Arteta had finally led us to the Champions League, something that hadn't been done since Wenger, his mentor, was in charge. And who won the league? Man City won the league. New season. So it's the new season. Worth noting, we play in red. The last 2 kits are the away kits. They're just nice. Look how nice this is. But we play in red, so we don't play in yellow and black and whatever. Just we play in red. It's 2022, so last year, if you're watching this in 2023, when I'm uploading it, Arsenal have a transfer window. We can buy players. First of all, oh my god, we brought Saliba back from France. For real this time. There he is. We've got him back for real. Arsenal need to sign new players, and what they do is they go with what they know. As you know, Mikel Arteta used to be the assistant manager of Man City with Pep Guardiola. During that time, he met a lot of players. I wonder if some of those players who weren't really playing for Man City would like to leave. This is Gabriel Jesus. Gabriel Jesus used to play for Man City. He gets bought by Arsenal. The striker we were missing. And no offence to Eddie Nketiah, he'll come back later, but he's not quite that level. Gabriel Jesus is a striker, and Man City's previous striker was a man named Aguero, who was amazing, but he has just retired. He's gone, and you would think that then he would take up the mantle as main striker. But Guardiola signed him, doesn't really believe in him, and they've also just signed a new striker. We'll get back to him later. So, in order to get more playing time and more minutes, he goes back to his old assistant coach, Mikel Arteta, and Arsenal. This is Alexander Zinchenko. Alexander Zinchenko is a very interesting man. He's Ukrainian, and considering the situation going on in Ukraine at the moment, he was seen as the guy to go to sports-wise to ask about the Ukraine situation and how it's affected him. He's the captain of the Ukraine national team. He's broken down in tears, describing Putin's invasion of Ukraine, what it has meant for him and his family. Genuinely, like, a very heartfelt speaker about all of that kind of thing. Football-wise, he used to play for Man City under Pep Guardiola. He just didn't get the game time. They had other options. So, again, surplus to requirement goes from City to Arsenal. Now, City aren't worried about this. City view Arsenal as a team that's finishing 5th, while they're constantly not only winning the league, but are getting bored of winning the league the amount of times they're winning the league. They want that Champions League. That's all they really give a shit about. And Arsenal aren't even in the Champions League. So fuck it, we'll just give them some of our excess players, we'll get money, and we'll buy in our own players, and then who cares? We'll just give the likes of Jesus and Zinchenko over, and that'll be fine. So, quick recap. At the moment at Arsenal, we have our old guard of Granit Xhaka. Is that it of the old guard? Fucking hell. He's no longer captain, but he's still here. We've also got Gabby Martinelli, Bukayo Saka, our star boy, Emil Smith-Rowe, Aaron Ramsdale, Martin Odegaard, Ben White, Eddie Nketiah, and we've now got Alexander Zinchenko, Gabby Jesus, and William Saliba's back from France. But unfortunately, Arsenal aren't the only team to spend in the transfer window. Man City really want to win that Champions League. Man City, by this man, this fucking behemoth Terminator fucking dude. This is Erling Haaland. Insert music. Erling Haaland is Norwegian, much like Martin Odegaard. He's like a fucking machine beast hybrid who was sent from another planet to score goals. He played in Salzburg in Austria and was amazing there. And then they were like, well, we'll send him to Germany, and maybe in Germany it'll slow him down a bit, and then he starts scoring insane goals all the time. And then they go, yeah, well, we'll just send him to England because, like, Germany's not as good as the English league. He can't possibly keep that up. He has scored something like 26 goals in 28 games. 27 games. That's like a goal a game. He scores hat-tricks, like, on a weekly basis sometimes. Beware this man. I'm going to stick him on the City badge because that is the scariest thing ever. There you go. Bam. We are terrified of this. But Man City aren't the only team active in the window. Now we need to get in geopolitics. This is Roman Abramovich. He is the owner of Chelsea. He is also a Russian oligarch. Russia is currently on the shit list of everybody because they have invaded Ukraine. So the British government say, you can't own Chelsea anymore. Figure it out. Chelsea gets bought by someone else. This is Todd Boehly. He is American. Todd Boehly also has a shit ton of money. USA. So Todd Boehly has a shit ton of money and he starts spending it like water. He starts buying players just for the fun of it and starts overpaying for players, and he buys the likes of Raheem Sterling from Man City. Who else does Todd Boehly buy? This is Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang in a Chelsea kit. Just compare the difference. Look how happy he was. So Chelsea have Aubameyang now. I bought a shirt with this man's name on it, and now he plays for a rival. Yay! Let's just put him next to Uncle Todd. It's like a soap opera, I told you. So, the season has begun. It's 2022. This season currently, the season's over a course of a year. That's well, we win 5 in a row. But people go, they're only beating easy teams. And you know what, fair, we did beat a bunch of teams that we really should be beating. But the problem is that in the last few seasons, we've been losing to teams that we should be beating. So this is at least progress. But it's Arsenal. Of course, they'll fall off eventually. Arsenal lose 3-1 to Man United. And when that happened, everyone went, there it is. There's the fall off. Now Arsenal will surely go back to their old losing ways. And that is the end of the winning run. But we win the next one, and the one after that is at Tottenham. Now, if you remember, Tottenham beat us 3-0 the last time we played. We got absolutely obliterated by them. This season, we beat them 3-1. We've only lost 1 game so far. But it'll fall off. It'll come to an end. Arsenal have come 8th, and 5th. Sorry, 5th, 8th, and 5th. We beat Tottenham. Fucking Tottenham bottle it all the time. They haven't won any trophies. It'll come to an end. By this point, Gabriel Jesus has 5 goals. That's really good. But we've got to play Liverpool next. Liverpool were challenging these guys to win the league last season and only lost by a few points. We beat Liverpool 3-2. What the fuck? This man, Gabby Martinelli, scored in the first minute. We had not beaten Liverpool in like over 5 years. Saka scores a penalty. Remember that? So, it's Arsenal versus Man City. I should really move on. So it's Arsenal versus Man City, right? Surely this will be the test that Arsenal need to see if they're ready at that level. Finally, we've all been waiting for this game. Let's see how they do. The Queen died. Because of that, all sporting fixtures in the UK get postponed. Arsenal versus Man City is off. It feels so disrespectful to put this on the board, so I'm just going to take it off. So there's no Arsenal versus Man City. So Arsenal don't have their big test. They've played Liverpool, they've beaten Liverpool, who came second, but they haven't beaten the team in first. Who knows if they can keep this up? Maybe their hot streak will come to an end, and when they have to play them eventually, they'll lose. Next, we have to play Chelsea with Uncle Todd's, the American, and Aubameyang. It's a Friday night. And Aubameyang, and we win. We win 1-0, which sounds like it was a really close game. We fucking destroyed them. It was really sad for them, actually. They were really bad. And here's a fun image. This is the goal scorer, Gabriel. Not Gabriel Martinelli, different Gabriel. We have 3 Gabriels. We have Gabriel Jesus, and Gabriel Martinelli. Don't worry about it. And who's that? It's Aubameyang. Look at him. That's him celebrating in Aubameyang's face after we scored. I told you it's like a soap opera. There. Oh, that looks like I've got him in the head there. It's a bit rough. It's a real big in-your-face moment for Aubameyang, who has gone from getting annoyed at the manager because he's saying that he's the reason for his loss, then getting sent to Barcelona, doing really well, and then not getting played by Barcelona, then going to Chelsea, who are supposed to be like, they'll solve all my problems, I'll get revenge, and then losing to Arsenal, the team that got rid of him. In the promos for this on BT Sports, he literally said, Arsenal, nothing personal, just business. And then he lost the game. This doesn't normally happen, but we had a World Cup in the middle of the season. It happened because this year's World Cup was in Qatar, and during the summer months in Qatar, it gets so hot that you can't play football. So they have to do it in the winter, which is, of course, great for everybody and doesn't interrupt the season in the slightest. By the time we got to that break, our record was lost 1, drawn 1, to Southampton, and 1-12. We are at the top of the table. We are number 1. This doesn't usually happen to Arsenal, who have finished so badly all the time. But people don't think we can win the whole thing. People think that Man City, who keep winning the title all the time, will do it. They're going to be the ones to do it. There's absolutely no hope of this. And City are second. They're still doing really, really well. They draw a game here and there, so they'll be fine in the long run. Let's go to the World Cup. The World Cup's happening, and a lot of Arsenal players are picked to go to the World Cup because we're no longer shit anymore, and a lot of countries want to bring in our players to play for them. Saka goes for England. Ramsdale also goes. He's like the backup goalkeeper. He doesn't play, but pretty cool considering he was relegated 3 seasons in a row, and people said he was really bad. Ben White goes. He leaves early due to reasons we're not entirely clear on, but people who were like, you paid 50 million quid for him. What a waste of money. He's now representing the country. Martinelli, the kid who was playing in the 4th division of Brazilian football, now plays for Brazil. And Gabriel Jesus also plays for Brazil. He's played before, though, because he was at Man City, so he's kind of used to it. Xhaka goes. Ødegaard does not go. Zinchenko doesn't go. Nketiah doesn't go. Haaland doesn't go because he plays for Norway and they don't qualify. Aubameyang doesn't go? I don't think he did. Gabon, I don't think qualified. So yeah, Martinelli, Ramsdale, Saka, Xhaka, Ben White, Jesus. And Saliba. And Saliba went to the World Cup as well. He played for France. Guess what happens to Jesus when he's playing for Brazil? He gets injured. The guy who's scoring all our goals gets injured in the middle of the World Cup. How do I, show that he's injured? Let's just put this over him. That's an injury. If you remember, last time when everyone was injured, this man, Eddie Nketiah, had to play. And it didn't go so well. Like a 3-0 under there. Side note, during this time, Saka plays for England again. He scores a bunch of goals, assists a bunch of goals. That's no longer what we remember of Saka. We remember this. So it's after the World Cup. England's knocked out, not his fault. And Argentina win it. We gotta play football again. Arsenal's gonna play again. But Jesus is injured. So Nketiah has to step up. He's not the stepfather, he's the father that stepped up. We play West Ham. And we win. Nketiah scores a goal. Xhaka got an assist as well. Do you remember this? Do you remember when he was throwing his shirt off and everything? People really like Xhaka again. He's scoring goals. He's revving up the crowd. He's hugging people. He's doing the badge. We thought he'd never play again. And we love him. Played Brighton. Brighton's doing pretty well. We beat them. Nketiah scores. We play Spurs again. Oh shit. Side note, during this time, have a guess where Chelsea are? 4th? 5th? No. They're 10th. Good job, Todd. So now we're going to play Manchester United. Manchester United, while having a really bad start to the season, are now really good. They're in 3rd place. They remind me of us the season before, where we lost those games really early on and then came back. They're doing really, really well. This is a real challenge. We've already lost to them this season. This game was insane. They score 1-0. We equalise. We score 2-1. Saka scores. They equalise 2-2. And in the 89th minute, Eddie Nketiah, not the stepfather, the father that stepped up. We thought we couldn't replace Jesus. He scores. We win 3-2. Thanks to Eddie Nketiah, the man who stepped up when all hope was lost. We'll put him underneath Saka because, like, you deserve more Arsenal fans, and look what we're saying. Do you remember that? Do you remember we deserve more Arsenal fans? Isn't that nice? And also, cheeky little assist from Granit Xhaka. If Granit Xhaka can come back from literally disrespecting the entire Arsenal Football Club, you can come back from whatever bullshit is going on in your life currently. And you should live by that. That man was so out here, and now he's loved by all. So it's January. We can buy players again. Well, there's this guy. This is Mikel Mudryk. He plays in Ukraine. He is Ukrainian. He plays for Shakhtar Donetsk. If you remember, someone else is Ukrainian. Zinchenko. And Arsenal like this guy. So we send a little agent out. This is Vlada Zinchenko. She is married to Alexander Zinchenko. They're married. She is also a TV reporter in Ukraine. And Mudryk is a hot property who's going to get interviewed by Vlada Zinchenko. So Vlada Zinchenko does us a big favour and asks Mudryk, hey Mudryk, Arsenal are doing pretty well at the moment. You wouldn't want to go play for Arsenal. Maybe you got a guy there who speaks Ukrainian. Maybe London's pretty nice. And Mudryk says, I love to watch Arsenal. Thanks, Vlada. So Arsenal start putting in offers to Shakhtar Donetsk, and they just can't quite meet the valuation. This man's going to go for a lot of money, whatever happens. So Arsenal's like, maybe this much. And Shakhtar's like, no, you're not meeting our asking fee. Like, there's been some big moves in Europe at the moment. We want to make sure we get the most money for this guy. And Arsenal go, what about this much? And Shakhtar's like, and it's getting really close, and they're almost going to meet the valuation. And then fucking Todd Bowley shows up and goes, I've got infinite money. Fucking have all of it. I don't want Arsenal getting him. Have all the money in the world. And they pay 100 million quid for this man. This man is one of the most expensive transfers ever done. Because this guy, Mr. Moneybags, just wants to throw his fucking money around. So, Mudryk plays for Chelsea now. It's really cool when the players that you really want and the players who made your life better just start playing for your rivals all of a sudden. This is not the first time this happened. Even before this fucking guy showed up, here's some players who I loved who went from Arsenal to Chelsea and started winning shit. Cesc Fabregas, Ashley Cole, Olivier Giroud. These names mean fucking nothing to nobody, but they do to me. When I was a little kid and I used to collect match attacks, I used to see my little guy's badge change from Arsenal to Chelsea, and then they would win everything and go, he can't win anything at Arsenal. And I'd go, yeah. So we've got to buy somebody. This is Leandro Trossard. Leandro Trossard plays for Brighton. So did Ben White. He's pretty good. He plays for Brighton, so a lot of people go, Brighton. He's 28, which for like not hitting your peak in football is a little bit worrying to some people. He'd scored 3 against Liverpool earlier this season when they drew 3-3. We put in a little bit of money. Not as much as fucking him, I'll tell you that for free. So Trossard plays for Arsenal. And you know what? We get one back on Chelsea. This is Jorginho. Jorginho used to play for Chelsea. He's ours now. We know you didn't really want him anymore because you've got better midfielders. But he's ours now. Fun fact about Jorginho. Jorginho won the Champions League with Chelsea. He won the Euros with Italy, in which he won in the penalty shootout against Bukayo Saka. He's won 2 major trophies. Maybe that'll come in handy. I'll just put it here with the rest of the fire. So a lot of people are a little bit worried because a lot of the players here that we brought in are not our usual kind of players. Trossard is 28, and I think Jorginho is 31. Meanwhile, like, all these players are like under 21 or under 23, and we're going for older players. So a lot of people are a little bit worried. We're kind of picking the ones that are just kind of straggling about, who aren't really happy with their clubs. and we brought him in. So let's do a status report. It's February. The transfer window has ended. Arsenal has lost 1 game all season. We've drawn 2. We drew against Newcastle and we drew against Southampton. We are top of the table. We are 5 points clear at the top of the table. Jesus is still injured, but things are good. We're 5 points clear at the top of the table. What could go wrong? We've won 16 games, so we've lost 1, drawn 2, and won 16 games. In perspective, when Arteta first joined Arsenal, we won 14 games over the entire season, and we still have 16 games to go at this point. Crazy. But at the same time, Haaland is breaking every single scoring record that there has been, except for the overall goals in a season, and that's because there's so many more games left. Man City are hot on our heels. So it's February, and it's time for that game that got postponed for the Queen's death to take place. It's Man City versus Arsenal. It is Arteta versus Pep Guardiola. It is machine versus community. It is the thing that's been building up for this entire season so far, right? The student and the master, the father figure and his apprentice. Arteta, who was so close to losing his job so quickly and has built himself up from like the very bottom, is finally going to go toe to toe with the guy who built him and has had success just everywhere. This is it. This is finally it. It's finally going to happen. Lost 3-1. That there. This just goes to show that even when Man City aren't the best, they are still capable of beating you 3-1. We played all right in this game. We played pretty well. Saka, who's scored a penalty, he has now taken a bunch of penalties and has not missed a single one since he missed that one for England. But yeah, we lost 3-1, and now City are just 2 points behind Arsenal in the league table. So Arsenal are here, City are here, 2 points. If City win one more game than Arsenal, they go above. And the next game, Arsenal draw against Brentford. City go above Arsenal. But that's when things start getting crazy. Arsenal have to play Aston Villa, and they go 2-1 down into the 77th minute. This looks like the kind of game that a few seasons ago Arsenal would just lose. But in the 77th minute, Zinchenko scores a blinder. And then in the 93rd minute, do you remember when I said that Arteta won the FA Cup and it was mainly due to the heroics of Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang and another player? It's Emi Martinez. So Emi Martinez during this time has gone a bit of a weird route. First of all, he helped us win the FA Cup and then he stopped getting played. He got replaced with Bernd Leno. But he just won us the FA Cup. So this guy basically says, Arsenal, what the fuck are you doing? I should be the top dog. And Arsenal go, well, you know, you had a good FA Cup, but like the FA Cup, it's the Aldi Cola of competitions. We don't really give a shit. So he goes, all right, fine, I'll leave. And he gets transferred to Aston Villa, pretty good club, and he goes over there and he starts doing really, really well. And also, he gets picked for the Argentinian national team. He's an Argentinian. They win their version of the Euros, and they win the World Cup. And he's the goalkeeper. Not good enough for Arsenal FA Cup keeper. He's now winning the World Cup, and he's the best goalkeeper in the tournament. So what we thought was going to be like quite a nice breakup between Arteta and Emi Martinez. You go play for Aston Villa, get your minutes. We'll sell you and get some good money. Win-win for everybody. Turns pretty nasty pretty quickly. Emi Martinez starts like going, well, I should have played and I would have done this and it's my fault that Arteta won all these things and I saved him the job and blah, 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 blah. So now he plays for Aston Villa. Jorginho's shot ricochets off the post, off Emi Martinez's back, and in. We win that game 4-2. You said it was 2-1 and you scored 2 goals. That's only 3-2. After that, Villa got a corner. Emi Martinez goes all the way to see if he can get the equaliser up at the top of the pitch. It gets cleared, and then Martinelli runs all the way back and scores. Talk shit, get hit, Emi Martinez. We'll just put you back behind Ramsdale. Meanwhile, Man City drop points to Nottingham Forest. Now, Nottingham Forest are dead last. They draw. They've won all. They draw. So the gap's back. We thought we were going to lose these games. And the ability to come back and score in the 93rd out of 90, extra time for injuries, is crazy. Especially since we don't have our main guy. He's still injured. So a few weeks ago, we played Bournemouth. Bournemouth score the second quickest goal in Premier League history against another team. They score within, was it 9 seconds or something ridiculous? Instantly, we go 1-0 down. They score another one. Way into the game as well. Second half, it's 2-0 to Bournemouth, a team right near the bottom. more drop points. You got to remember that if we drop any points, we still got to play Man City again. There's a 5-point gap. If we lose, we drop 3 points, and then if City beat us, it's 3 points, and then they get the point. So they go 1 point above us. We can't afford to drop any points at all. So it's 2-0. Gets to 2-1. Ben White, the overpriced £50 million player, gets another goal. And then came like one of the best moments I've had as an Arsenal fan ever. I don't have a card for him, which is quite harsh, but Reece Nelson, just back from loan in the Netherlands, he didn't really get a look in at Arsenal. He was constantly injured. We think we're probably going to sell him coming up. It's 2-2. We can't afford to drop any points. We're just throwing the kitchen sink at it. Let's see what happens. There is 7 minutes of injury time. Time added at the end of the game for when players go down injured or referees need to figure stuff out. 7 minutes at the end. 96, 50. This is Reece Nelson. And it's a blinder as well. Like, even if you're not into football, you should look that up. It's amazing. So that takes us to an hour. We played another game against Fulham, and this guy, Leandro Trossard, got 3 assists in one game. We beat them 3-0. And then we played Palace and beat them 4-1. But we're talking about sports, and this is supposed to be a soap opera. So that's where we're at. Arsenal are 5 points clear of Man City. Arsenal finished 5th, 8th, 8th, 5th. They were going for 4th. These guys were outpacing them constantly. Chelsea are, I think, 9th or 10th. And Tottenham are like 4th maybe. But those are the guys who were laughing at us for losing 3-0. And we're way above them. We're at the top of the Premier League. All the money that was spent by these clubs, we spent a bunch of money, but like, you know, all of that for superstars has not got them anywhere. Invested in young lads, promising guys who want to work, guys who have been told that they're not good enough, guys who have been told that they're too old, told that they're too young, who've come from the streets of Brazil, who've come from working in Arsenal from when they were 7 years old, guys who played for clubs and were overlooked, guys who played for Arsenal and just didn't do well, guys who we thought would never play for Arsenal again. A manager who was 1 game away from losing his job. People who've been shipped to France for 2 years because they were told they weren't good enough. We've been humiliated 5-0. We've lost games. We've lost derbies. We've been told that the best player on planet Earth plays for our position. We've had maybe some of the worst treatment that any player has had, full stop, for a kid who is not even 21. This is where we're at. I'll give you a brief rundown of what this would mean for everybody, because it will mean something to every single person on the board. First of all, Arsene Wenger left this club and consistently finished 3rd, and he was the last person that won us a league. The tensions with Arsene Wenger were really, really high when he left, the Wenger out stuff. But since we've been winning games, he's come back, and there's photos of him hugging Bukayo Saka. So what you need to know about Arsene Wenger is that when he was manager, he really invested in the youth, like really big time. There was players who did really, really well for Arsenal who were young, and he believed in them, and he wanted to play good football. And that's carried on in the spirit of the game. If we were to win the league this season, it would be all the way back to 1996, his way of playing. For Zinchenko, it is getting one over on the club that just totally let him go during a time in which his home nation has been overthrown with war completely. For Eddie Nketiah, it's a chance to show that he's good enough to play for the club, despite the fact he's fucked up in the past. He's always been seen as a backup, and during a time in which players have just been totally injured and there's no one else to turn to, he's stepped up. For Trossard, it's the opportunity to show that you're better than the guy who cost 100 million quid, and to do better than him. Mudryk is not scoring. I think he's got 1 assist. For Ødegaard, it's the chance to show that you're not a failure and all the hype for when you were a kid has actually led up to where you are now and that you were overlooked by Real Madrid. For Ben White, it's a chance to show that you are so much more than your own price tag that you didn't even set yourself. He was told that he was not good enough to be playing for Arsenal and that he was the most overpriced player of all time. Despite the fact, with this close to paying 100 million quid for a player, I cannot overstate that this guy cost 100 million quid and he has 1 assist. For Granit Xhaka, it is the ultimate redemption story. It is the fact that you broke every single bridge with every single person watching you and you're able to get that back. For Saliba, it shows that you don't need to be exiled in France. For Saliba, it shows that, again, trusting in the process and trusting in someone's plan, like full on sending you to France for like years, and being this close to leaving, if you just keep faith in things, that things will actually work out. For Emile Smith-Rowe, it's the whole circle. You were the guy who brought this club up from the absolute bottom and I'm going to be able to see it get to the absolute top. For Jesus, it's the same. It's getting one over on Man City, who bought the absolute monster striker, the guy to replace you, who's getting all the headlines, and you're going to be the one who gets the last laugh. For Jorginho, it's not so much for Jorginho, but you get to get one over on Chelsea. And considering Arsenal has lost so many players to Chelsea, it would be nice for one of theirs who comes over to our side to at least get one. For Ramsdale, it's one to show that even though you've been relegated, fallen out the bottom of the league 3 times in 4 years, you can still reach the absolute top if you just try hard enough. For Saka, I shouldn't even need to say anything. He was a kid who was abused by people all across the nation, racially, despite the fact he put in a shift in as a teenager. He was the one who said we deserve more. And the people who believed in him are finally going to be able to see that come to fruition. For Guardiola, it is a chance for him to fight his apprentice, the thing he created. And for winning all the time, he finally needs to essentially fight himself, in a sense. For Chelsea, it shows that you can just throw all the money in the world at something, and if you don't really give a shit, it doesn't really mean anything. For Tottenham, doesn't really mean anything for Tottenham, just would be hilarious if we won the league. And for Arteta, I just ripped his entire phone. It's the story of ultimate redemption, right? It is the hero's journey. It is going from setting out, keeping faith in a club, falling so hard, and then having to build up the pieces just through hard work and determination. He's not living in the shadow of his mentor anymore. He's going toe-to-toe with him. He's keeping faith in his way of playing and keeping faith in a ragtag group, which a lot of them weren't wanted anywhere else. And in a team that made him as a player, arguably Everton did quite a lot as well. But as a team who made him as a player, being able to give that back to him and to the manager who he was under, it is a fairy tale. You can see that going through all of this is a story, and that's why I wanted to explain it as such. You could write this into a Game of Thrones. You could write this into a Succession. There's so many different overlapping things. And something that's quite beautiful about the sport is being able to not just see dudes play every week, but see these kind of stories and narratives unfold. I don't know how the story's going to end. We could easily just bottle this completely, lose, and finish second, maybe even finish third. It would kind of feel like a punch in the face. But at the same time, we were going for 4th. We could finish second, and that would feel like a disappointment. We were 8th. The amount of work, effort, and things that could happen in the next few weeks of the Arsenal title race is something that more people should be excited about. Look at all of these people. This is a cast of characters. And we're going to see it happen live in the next 10 games. We got to play City again. Got to play Chelsea again. We'll see. So yeah, that's about it. Thank you so much to Mike's Mike, Jenny Nicholson, and Jordan Teresa, and anyone else who has made these kind of corkboard videos for the inspiration of being able to tell really long, complex stories over a long period of time. As you can maybe see, I'm not a YouTuber. I've done this specifically to be able to share excitement with as many people as possible, and I really hope I've done so to at least one person. Thank you so much for watching. It's been a very long video, and it's going to take even longer to edit, so we'll see how that goes. All right, thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.